Hi, my name is Bill Schaffler. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Black Box Intelligence and People Report, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about what's going on this summer, specifically talking about our July restaurant industry snapshot. Before I get into some of the details about what happened in July, let's just set the table a little bit in terms of what's happening in our environment. And as most of you know, it's pretty unpredictable these days in terms of what you can expect the consumer to be thinking. And a lot of that is influenced by what's going on with gas prices, what's going on with the unemployment rate, and really that's showing up in consumer optimism and consumer confidence. For example, gas prices were very, very high in the spring, and they've come down somewhat to more acceptable levels, so to speak, this spring, and then in the summer they've started to creep back up a little bit. The unemployment rate really has remained unchanged, but it's still at a very high level. And then certain things happening in Europe have kind of influenced the consumer's perception of the overall economic environment, not necessarily in a good way. And then right now we're actually dealing with the Olympics. That's more about what's going to happen in August, but it did affect a little bit about what happened in the last month of July. So it's kind of an unpredictable environment, but we are holding up. And so let me talk a little bit about what happened in July. We actually did experience, as an industry, positive comp sales of 0.8% in July. However, traffic was negative at -1%. We did predict that sales were going to be a little bit softer in the month of July compared to June, and that was actually based on our Restaurant Willingness to Spend Index, which is provided by our partner, Consumer Edge Research. That index actually went down in the month of June from where it was in May. It was at 89 in May, went down to 81 in June. And when we saw that result, we thought, okay, that could possibly affect sales in July, which in turn would cause softer sales. And we did see that. Now, the good news in July is that the first half of the month was positive 2.5%, those first 2 weeks. The second half of the month was the softer portion of the month, and really the last week of the month was the only week that was impacted by the Olympics, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we did see a negative result in that last week of July. So in August, we're going to have about a week that's impacted by the Olympics. One of the good signs for August is going back to that Restaurant Willingness to Spend Index, most recently released by Consumer Edge Research. That number went up from the 81 we experienced in June to an 85 in July. So we actually believe that index influences, what we can expect for sales to do. So we believe sales may be slightly stronger in August than what they were in July. Talking a little bit about check average growth, it was up 1.9% year over year in July. That has actually been coming down a little bit. It appears that most of our member companies in Black Box Intelligence are not taking as much pricing as they were at the beginning of the year. We'll continue to monitor and report on that because we do believe some of these issues in commodities affected by the drought may cause that to change a little bit in the second half of the year. Food and alcohol sales were both positive. And then talking regionally a little bit, what we've been saying all year is that the outer parts of the country, or the coasts, have been performing less than the middle of the country, and we did see that again in July, with the Midwest being the top performer at positive 1.8% in comp sales, and the Western region being down 0.6%. Another positive item to report is that of the 146 DMAs that we report on, 63% of those DMAs were actually in positive territory in the month of July, and that was a little bit down from what we saw in June, but still a positive sign and something to continue to focus on, because there are people that are winning in our industry. From the People Report side, we're happy to report that in our membership base, job growth was about 3.3%, which was better than what we saw in June by almost half a point. Manager turnover also was mostly flat So we're seeing that it's not increasing like it was earlier in the year. However, hourly turnover is trending up, and so we're going to continue to obviously monitor that and pay attention to it. So lots of things to report, lots of good news, lots of bad news, or not so bad news. Let's just say we're not in a terrible environment. We're in a fairly static, flat environment where people can win in this environment. One of the things that I thought I would mention is sometimes our members send us really interesting information that we digest and report back to you. One of the things I wanted to show you this month was actually a member company that sent us a picture. Actually, it was a member or a person at one of our member companies sent us a picture of him on a fishing trip in Alaska, and I think it's kind of appropriate to show this picture to you and talk a little bit about what the metaphor may mean to the environment that we're in. Here you can see John Cahill, the VP of Operations for Group LaDuff North America, fishing in Alaska for salmon, and you can see the grizzly bear lurking off to the side of the river while he's fishing. Now, he didn't see this grizzly bear. You can see the guy to the left of him gently persuading him to cut his line and walk away. But the metaphor in this picture, from my perspective, is that we do have things in the background that are lurking that we need to pay attention to and be careful in terms of how we respond to them. However, there are a lot of fish out there. There are a lot of comp sales and traffic numbers to be had, and people are achieving those. So hopefully you enjoy that picture. Hopefully the metaphor makes sense to you. Thanks a lot for joining me today, and I look forward to talking to you in the month of August. Have a great month.